Shalom. Welcome again to Secrets of Meaning, the podcast TV arm of Jewish Sacred Aging. I'm your host, Rabbi Richard Address. Thank you very, very much for joining us on what I promise you will be a very, very interesting conversation with our guests today. If you have a suggestion or a comment about any of the podcasts that we do or ideas for future ones, please feel free to drop me an email at rabbiaddress@jewishsacredaging.com. Visit the website, jewishsacredaging.com, the Facebook page on Jewish Sacred Aging, and then you know the drill and all those social media things, which, and if not, ask a grandchild. They know everything. One of the most challenging things that all of us have to deal with sooner or later in a variety of different forms and really venues in many ways is the psycho-spiritual aspect of grief. What it does to us, how we handle it, how we incorporate it, and where that grief goes in our neshama as time goes by. We are very pleased to welcome to today's conversation Jane Feld, an author, editor, storyteller, here to share with us some of her personal journeys, reflecting upon the death of her son, what that does and continues to impact her life and the life of her family. And in the creation of, let's just say, a new belief structure called mermaidism, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes. Anyway, Jane, thank you very much for joining us. I really do appreciate it. It's nice to see you. How you doing today?
Hi, Rabbi Address. Thank you so much for having me here. I feel like you've been a part of my story from the beginning, and I learn a lot from you, and I'm just so happy to be here.
Thank you. You've written a lot in a variety of different ways. You do speak a little bit about the idea, the power of words, and why journaling to you is so important. If I remember correctly, something I read in preparing for today, that you started journaling when you were a kid, a teenager. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it was the first way that I was able to connect with myself when what everyone was telling me around me didn't seem quite right. Journaling was really bookmarking words to backfill when I had more experience being able to have emotions attached to them.
You still journal, right?
Yes, but it's changed. I used to journal on paper, and I have books and books of journals, some of them with like silly rainbows on them from when I was 14, and some of them just bound leather books. But after Ravi died and my hand didn't keep up with what my brain needed me to do, and I started voice memoing everything. I have so many voice memos on my phone right now. And then, when you talk, there's a lot of ums. Probably you're more practiced than I am, but I don't want to hear them. So I take them to my voice recognition AI software and just have it put into a narrative for me. So I don't have to hear all that uncomfortable ums. And it also really helps with my ADD, because when I'm very stream of consciousness, and it just puts everything together in a way that I understand myself.
That's so cool. That's the voice memo thing. I have to check that out. You're much more technologically advanced than I am.
Oh, it's easy.
No. You write about this idea of turning grief into love. I probably am not mistaken to say that the major turning point had to do with the death of Ravi, which for any parent is a life-altering experience. So walk me through that, if you don't mind, and how you, in these since that death and the accident, turned that grief into love.
Okay, so Ravi died April 3rd, 2021. We were on a family vacation in Virginia. The world was starting to open up. I remember he was scheduled to get the vaccine on April 17th because he was old enough, of my 3 kids. And we just had this wonderful vacation before. During the pandemic, we really connected with history. We were doing a lot of walking around South Jersey and battlefields and connecting with Revolutionary history. And we did this trip in the Shenandoah Valley. We visited Jefferson's estate, Montpelier, and we visited Madison's estate. That was where we were the day that he died. And it was just a beautiful family vacation. And it was a 1-car crash that my husband and I and my 2 younger sons, Lee and Carrie, were able to walk out of, and Ravi died on the spot. So it's still grief that I'm revisiting a lot in the water because it feels safer to. And then writing about it is a way of just having it move through my body, that it no longer has like the dark energy force. And I'm able to write about it in ways that I understand it, which I think helps other people connect to grief too.
You know, many people have said, well, I read the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross stuff and all the stages, of grief. And my experience as a rabbi is you could read all those books, but it's so personal. It's so personal that to try to pigeonhole stages maybe just futility, just maybe futile. You've used words to turn grief into love, correct?
That's how it works for me, yes. But it was also because I've read all that stuff. I've read Buddhism. I read books on Jewish rituals surrounding death. I've read wide and far, and I know that the words are swirling around inside of me, but until I'm able to experience them personally, like they just hold no meaning.
The concept of holding that sense of memory. In some of the material you've written that I've read, Ravi is very, very present with you, is he? Is he not?
He's most present with me when I'm in the water and when I'm writing about him. Yes.
So let's go to the water thing, because the water thing is such an amazing image that you constantly write about. And water has, from a variety of different religions, therapeutic, it's transformative. We have it with the mikveh, other, religions with baptism. It's symbolic in cinema. Usually, when you water or rain or the ocean, there's a symbolic representation that there's going to be a transformation, a shift in the story. I guess the first question really is, where did you get this, passion? I'll use the word passion or attraction to what water means in your life. Where'd that come from?
Well, I just feel like as a child, it was the only place I really felt safe.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a nice Jewish home where I was educated. There was enough to eat. I just feel like it was flat. Like I went to synagogue and there was nothing that made me feel connected to God. Like I know I bookmark God because I wanted to believe. Like I have that X-Files Mulder, I want to believe. And I've always had that. And sometimes I think I felt a little bit of a stirring of God, but not enough. I didn't trust it. And then I realized in water, I've always felt safe. Like even my family was fun in the water versus like I had to be a certain way because I was a girl, or like there were just no expectations in the water. And I realized Actually, I did this shamanic training in California where we did all these inventive rituals that are meant to connect your mind to your body. And one of them, the one that was like the Jane one, was we were in a swimming pool of one of the members' parents' house in Sonoma County. And I kept calling it a baptism because it just sounded like a fun word, kind of like mermaidism is a fun word, that we were supposed to go back into the water and be caught and then carried. And I just willed that into being my transformation. I was ready for it. And it really was. That was the first time that I just felt Ravi was carrying me in the water. And I'm actually writing about this in my memoir on mermaidism and how that was the moment he was like, I've always been with you, mommy. And I started to just believe it.
And you felt he was holding you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I realize in water, I can connect to my higher self. Like all the lower thoughts that are more fear-based they're the ones that are muffled, and I get to see the higher version of what I'm supposed to be.
So you mentioned that your concept of mermaidism. What is it? And was it born in Sonoma?
It was, but there weren't words for it until I went back to the JCC pool in Cherry Hill, and I started going really deep in the water and using my breath to I realized through some of the breath work that I was doing in California, which is like probably hippie stuff, that the breath is the pedal. Like I've been doing yoga for so long, and I never realized how much breath is a part of what you can take in. And being in the water, being in the 8-foot deep water and allowing myself to go deep, which meant first, like allowing a little pain in because my ears were popping at first. Now they don't pop, but I just try to stay under it as long as I can. And there was this one lifeguard who, they're mostly teenage lifeguards. They don't notice anything. And this one guy who's older was like, I thought I was going to have to go in after you. And he was like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, I created my own religion, mermaidism. And it just became a thing. And I think calling it this connects to like Jewish humor. Like there's some absurdity that a mermaid is leading me to God, but it's just about paying attention. The mermaid is a reminder of all the portals to God. For me, like God is clearest in the water. It was just like a survival instinct to turn it into a spiritual tool. And I just kept on going more and more with it. I wrote an article for Next Avenue, a national publication called Mermaidism, the Religion I Created to Save Myself, or something like that. And I've just been going with it. And so many people I talk to realize that they too feel safer in the water and have started using it to let go of some of the heaviness of the world, of their own grief.
Yeah, the Next Avenue article, which is from May of this year, you can get on the Next Avenue website, which is a very, very good website. Actually, we posted some of their stuff on Jewish Sacred Aging. But this idea, you're not a regular synagogue attendee, correct?
I'm getting more and more into it because I found it as like a back alleyway into my Judaism.
Meaning
it just was never available to me. It all just seemed like word salad, and a lot of the rituals. I mean, I'm pretty ADD anyway, like standing for prayers that I didn't really understand just didn't resonate with me. And I started paying more attention to all the prayers and the many ways that it resonates with me because of this spiritual practice opened it for me. And I find it beautiful now. Oh, and I do make challah every week.
Well, that's part of the practice. But you see, there are going to be people watching or listening to this who are also spiritually searching, that they may find the formal, if I can use that term, worship service in the institution, it doesn't speak to their soul. Doesn't speak to their soul. And your journey, you see, I think, can be very instructive to some people who's saying you don't necessarily need now or a particular period of time. You can find that sense of spiritual shleimut or wholeness in a variety of different places. You've found it in the pool and with breath. And breath, as you've taken, I think you said yoga and stuff, Jewishly is a very, very powerful image. It's the breath of life in Genesis 1, and Moses dies in this midrash with God kissing Moses, and his breath leaves. So it is in many ways very, very, very traditional what you're searching for. You mentioned that you used to, or do you still find yourself a spiritual orphan?
Less so. Yeah, I know that you recently had the guest Alan Moranis.
Right. Alan Moranis last week was our guest on Secrets of Meaning on his new book on Musar.
Yeah, so I started doing Musar at my synagogue, Kol Ami, and I read his book. I met him when he came last time with his book, and when he went on to Substack, I was so excited because he started talking about spiritual orphans, and for the longest time, I thought, is my family just like completely outliers? Because we did prayers, we kept kosher, but nothing, it all felt like performance. There was nothing that attached that to any kind of feeling. And I realized that a generation has really been lost to that spirituality. And I grew up in that. And then I realized that a lot of my friends who grew up Catholic or other forms of Christianity felt the same way. So maybe it's just everything that was in the air at the time. Like I felt like there was never a connection to the soul. You were supposed to stay Jewish for the 6 million who died, but that didn't seem like enough. And most people who grew up in the synagogue when I did are not religious at all, shy away from it. My own siblings think are just like distrustful of where I am with my spirituality. I mean, they've lived with the tragedy too, but it's different.
Does I got to ask you this, is your journey, your spiritual journey, does it frighten some of your relatives and friends?
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me about that. Why do you think that they're so frightened or concerned, or, what is that? Why do you think so?
Well, I guess you hear all the time that, people find God out of desperation, and maybe there's some truth to that, but I just feel like I was living with so much shoved inside of me that was unexplored. And once I started exploring my grief, I realized that like there's this level of humming inside myself that was always there that I never really felt safe. And I've been able to let go of that. I guess that doesn't answer about my relatives, but it was always much safer when we didn't talk about spirituality because they don't understand what it is. They haven't connected with it. So it's something to be distrusted. And it's kind of like the way in my family, everyone viewed therapy or any kind of program that was self-help. It was always like a cult. Like nobody could trust going into their inner lives. And that's what I needed to do to survive going through the unimaginable.
It's very frightening for many people to go inside their own soul because they're afraid what they're going to find there.
That's where I want to live now. But I also wanted to say that my way of understanding my spirituality started with looking at it like a Shabbat service. Like, even though, like, I realized that at the beginning when I get into the pool, I need like a little bit of a welcoming just to ease into it before I go full into the service of my mermaid practice. And I just saw so many prayers of the service that it finally related to, that when I do go to synagogue, which I try to do, I just find so much more peace in it.
It's amazing that when you write about turning grief into love, you are also saying, from what I'm hearing you say, is that this journey into grief from Ravi acted as an invitation for you to search for your own sense of meaning.
Yes. I think I always felt like, what's it going to take for me to like really find my authentic self? I've been a journalist like
Yes,
my
I
whole
know.
career.
You write what your life is words.
Yeah, but it was other people's. I know I got into it to try to understand how other people feel and how other people tackle this human experience. And most people have a turning point story. And I think I always wondered what my turning point story was going to be. And, the horror of it being tied to losing Ravi is a lot. But I knew once I got over the shock that I had to like dive in.
And yes, and I think your writing and your life is also an example of saying you can, if you experience this horror, which is horror, you again have a choice. You can curl up and die, or you can take this and try to understand it, not deny it, but use it as a means to grow and to share with other people and to let other people into what this journey can mean. And that's a gift. That is a gift.
Yeah. And I also realized like my whole life is kind of gearing towards this. Like, even when I had zero spirituality, my first internship as a journalist was at the Jewish Exponent.
Well, in Philadelphia. Okay.
In Philadelphia, yeah. Which that was just a bookmark, because when I moved back to Cherry Hill after I had a career as a journalist, Philadelphia Inquirer, and then in New York at the Gannett newspapers, my first job coming back was as assistant editor of the Jewish Community Voice. And that was a very safe way for me to explore Judaism as an adult, but from afar. Like, just being able to write about other people, write about their experiences. And then I was executive editor of SJ Magazine here in South Jersey. And I just have a lot of connections that when I started writing about Ravi, my first article, it was called Ravi's Story. And it was comparing his life to Hamilton, which is the musical that just resonates so deeply in my family and did for Ravi. And I started writing essays about him. And then that's turned into a Substack that I've been trying to do weekly, and writing a book.
It's just the imagery of the water and post-accident and the grief. It's almost as if as you dip your toe into the pool, you begin to dive even deeper into this treasury of Jewish tradition and spirituality. And every time you do that into that pool, you come back, you surface with another sense of, yes, this is what it means for me.
Yeah. And it's funny because I keep thinking, oh, Judaism's going to kick me out because I keep on saying that I'm doing this mermaid thing.
No.
And it just like always meets me where I am.
No, so let me, before we start running out of time, I want to, you mentioned something before we started our conversation officially on the podcast, of something you did a couple of Friday nights ago with a group of people, and a ritual that I've been after synagogues to do for years, which of course they don't want to do. The letting go, I'm going to call it the letting go ritual, but you can name it however you did it. What happened a couple of Friday nights ago? I guess at your house?
Yeah, it was probably the first in October fall weekend where it was cold enough to have a fire pit, and just a dark time in America right now. And I invited people to just for a potluck dinner and to sit at the fire. And we talked about how there's so much building up in the world, both forces beyond our control in the world and grief that we're holding on to. And everyone wrote on a little piece of paper something that they wanted to let go of. And then an important part of this was being witnessed. It was all women, and we just talked about what we wanted to let go of. For me, it was some of my self-sabotage, that the words that I bring into the world, that they have meaning for me and they have meaning for other people and they need to be there. I wanted to let go of self-doubt with that, and also how hard it is to love people in my life who are resistant to healing. And I put that into the fire, and so many other women shared what they needed to put into the fire. 3/4 of them were Jewish. And I heard from people they never had better sleep after that night of being in the fire and letting things go.
The letting go thing, we talk about this a lot in a lot of the workshops that we do in classes. Even some of the classes I teach at Colony, the tensions that as we get older that we live with, one of the most amazing and important ones, often unrecognized, is this tension between what do we hold on to and what do we need to let go of for our own neshama, for our own sanity and our own mental and physical health. So that's why I wanted you to tell people about what you did, because I think it's absolutely essential that people have the courage and the honesty, and it takes a lot of courage to say, yes, I have to let go of this in order for me to survive, because if you keep repressing stuff, as you know, if you keep repressing stuff, you get sick. That's illness, physical illness, mental illness, and spiritual illness.
I feel like my mermaidism practice, I let go of a lot. And that is just as an individual. That's why I know my religion doesn't hold water. It's very individual. But doing this at the fire collectively and being witnessed by other people, not being judged, but just being able to let go of this and feel the supportive community, it felt like something we need.
The power of community is, especially as we get older, becomes absolutely essential, because we are alone so much. And there's an existential aloneness that you've alluded to, and an existential aloneness following grief and such tragedies as you've lived through, that when you are this is what Shiva is so important, okay? Because it is community. And just like you experienced a couple of Friday nights ago with that little kahila around your fire pit, it was potentially transformative to many people. And because you were doing it on Erev Shabbat, even more so, linking you to a tradition. And we have a long history of people creating varieties of different rituals. And I have 3 file folders worth of new rituals that people have sent us for our work on new rituals. So I hate to break it to you, but you're in a very, very good company about what you're doing traditionally. And so, Jane, thank you very, very much for sharing your story. And do you have one piece of advice to share with people who may be also struggling in a variety of different ways?
I think that the whole practice of writing is breaking through fear. I think everything's breaking through fear. It's just if you ritualize things where you feel safe, then you can take your mind to places and explore what seem too dark, and then it loses some of that power to hold on you. And that's one of the things I'm leading a trip to Peru over the summer for a women's journey, a spiritual journey, and I'm going to be one of the sacred leaders helping people to process things through writing.
So this is the summer of 26?
Yes.
How many days?
10 days.
And to where in Peru?
It's going to be Machu Picchu, Lake Titicaca, just a lot of the places that hold a lot of spiritual power. And what I've Jewish people going, what I've told them is there's, for me, and I think for a lot of people who just didn't grow up that comfortable in religion and are finding their way, seeing how other cultures have the same practices, they do it in a different way that's beautiful, really helps me appreciate that it's all in Judaism.
So real fast, if somebody says now piqued their interest and say, this is something I'd like to explore, is there a website or a contact info somebody can get some information on this?
Yeah, it's on my website. It's on my partner's website. Can I put it somewhere?
Yes. Yeah, what is it?
It's on exposingtheroots.com is probably the easiest way. That's my partner, Tina Green.
Exposingtheroots.com?
Yes. Actually,
Okay.
I want to double check that.
And what about janesays.info?
It's there too.
Okay, so there's two. So if somebody is interested in this spiritual retreat in Peru, just women, I hate to say this as a man, but just women?
It's our first trip, and it's going to sell out, and we're going to do more trips.
Okay.
So you can come with us.
Okay, that I'd like to get to Peru. Janesays.info, JAYNESAYS.info, and the other website is
exposingtheroots.com.
exposingtheroots.com. Jane Feld, author, editor, storyteller, Neshama. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much
for your soul and your story. Continued success. Wishing you much health. And I'll see you in shul maybe sometime.
You will.
Thank you. To all of you, thank you very, very much for joining us on today's edition of Secrets of Meaning, the podcast TV arm of Jewish Sacred Aging. Again, if you'd like to support our work, please go to the website. JewishSacredAging.com. There's a very conveniently located donate button. If you'd like to be a sponsor for some of our podcasts, again, just feel free to email me at Rabbi Address at JewishSacredAging.com. Secrets of Meaning is produced at the Broadcast Center of Lubetkin Media in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and a shout out to our producer, Steve Lubetkin. Until we see each other again, thank you very, very much for joining us. Take care of yourself, stay healthy, and most of all, be kind to one another. Shalom.